Okay, it's day 300 off the grid. Yes, day 300, and what a great celebration of day 300 being a nice round number off the grid. And I have actually spent most of the day working on solar, even though that was a bit naughty with the day of Beltane being about 6 days away. I should have been really working on music, which I'll hopefully get some time to do at the end of the day, although I'm pushing it a bit now. But I'm very pleased with what I've come up with today. But first of all, I'm going to show you what I haven't done today. What I in fact did that same day that I made the last video with the solar panels on the roof. Down here, excuse the mess, there's my 24 volt battery bank, and I've been having issues with keeping the two sides of the bank balanced. I've added this balancing cable, which has helped a great deal, like I did in the other room before I reconfigured it, but I'm not reconfiguring this lot. I'm trying a completely different technique, and it seems to work quite well. So I'll show you what it is, and this is just brilliantly simple. I mean, obviously at the moment this is all like prototyping, research kind of lash up rather than my tidy final setup. So all we've simply done is split the 24 volt bank into two 12 volt banks, an upper and a lower half. And I've controlled each one from a separate charge controller and a separate bunch of solar panels on each. So that's why I was up on the roof doing the rewiring, so I could split my 24 volt wiring into essentially two lots of 12. So this manages the charging of the lower bank, and this manages the charging of the upper bank. And due to that, they always have to be balanced. And it's a really, really simple wiring job too. Anyone could actually do this. There's nothing really complicated or circuity about it, although I'll make a better video on it, let's say, once I tidy it all up, and I might even draw some schematics. It's really easy to do. Now, there's only one issue here with my particular setup with these, is that you need two charge controllers here identical, and as you can see, these are. But these are the only kind of charge controllers I have that are identical, and they only handle 10 amps each, so I can't put all the panels that I've got on these batteries through these controllers, because the existing controller up here can handle 15, which is just enough. These, I wouldn't even run them to 10 because I know the way that they heat sink the MOSFETs, so 8 amps is what I'd call them maximum, so I'm not going to push them any further. So that's one issue that I've got, which makes things for my particular setup get a little bit more complicated. The second thing is, through this yellow and green wire, which supposedly should be an earth, but that is not an earth. That is actually a send from the solar panels on the other shed from my real-time diversion controller. So whenever the batteries in the other shed have had enough and the diversion output becomes active, guess where it comes? Through this wire. So this black wire is the ground, and that's basically tying the two, 0 volts, I was going to say 0 volts negatives together of the two sheds. So we can get between there and there, we can get solar panel voltage when it's available here. Okay. So I need a way of regulating that, and also regulating the extra panels I have on here that aren't going to be part of the split balance system. Now, ideally, I think you really want to put everything through your balancing controllers, so if I had 30 amp controllers here, I'd just bung everything through it, all the panels on this shed, but I can't do that, and I can't put this through it because this is a single 24 volt feed, it's not split. So I needed a charge controller. Well, I started out experimenting with this power transistor and making a simple linear charge controller, which I pulled apart before I filmed. It was, it was just laid out like this. But it was extremely inefficient, as you might expect. And I was going to go, yeah, inefficient's okay, but it was just too inefficient for what I liked. It was when the batteries needed charging, it was wasting too much power. I didn't mind if it was wasting a lot of power when the batteries were getting to the top of the charge and it was regulating, but when it was hard on, I mean, and these circuits always do, you know, there's really little you can do about that. So I thought, an on-off controller. So my initial thing was to build up another one of my classic 2-transistor latching circuits that I've built so many of them, but I'm kind of getting bored of building them. I did think about building the 741555 circuit in Andy Reynolds' book, which I definitely want to build, but at the moment, with being busy with a lot of other things, I don't really have the patience to sit down and solder up little ICs and stuff, so I kind of wanted something a bit sort of quicker and dirtier, I guess. And this is what I've come up with, and as we've been here and I've been talking, this relay has been clicking away, as you can hear. It's an on-off controller. And this relay here is the main relay. It's a good 30 amp relay, 24 volt relay, and it's doing the switching, of course. But what's really clever about this setup, I think, is that what's actually controlling that does not use any transistors. It does not use any chips or anything like that. It does use some solid state components, but the main threshold component is this relay. It's done with a relay. So basically what we have here is we have this chain of Zener diodes. Well, this is an ordinary diode, but it's added to trim them. Drops the voltage to a point where this 12 volt relay will only switch when this voltage here reaches just over 27 volts. Now, normally the problem with doing this is that the difference between switching a relay on and a relay off is too great for a practical charge controller. But I've found if you drop the voltage using Zeners rather than resistors, those 2 points become a lot closer. But I think it also matters what particular type of relay you've got. And I was lucky just to pull this one out first, and it works really well. So we're only getting about, well, I'm probably going to run out of film now before this does its thing again. This will get down to, what, should be on? Oh, it's going to go up again. There we go. It's going to go up to 28. What's it going to go down to? Anyway. So it goes up to about 27, 28. And then it, depending on where you set it, and then it drops back down, and it continues that cycle again. There we go. It's off now. There we are, 26.2. Now it's back on. .28, there we go. She drops back. So it's sort of a 2 volts. 2 volts is much better. Now I did have a problem with this relay chattering, of course, so I put this capacitor across the coil of this one here after the Zeners, and that worked really, really well. Right, I'm rapidly running out of film. I've got to make an omelette for the boys for lunch using the power that this shed provides actually to run the oven. And yeah, so that's it. Day 300 off the grid. Did a lot of solar work. I'll develop this a little bit more and tidy it up. I reckon this is what I'm going to go with. It's really robust, and it could be a really awesome thing for you preppers out there paranoid about EMPs. I mean, these are junction diodes, of course, but they're probably more likely to stand up to it than something that's got chips in it or even transistors, I would dare say. So yeah, there we go. That'll do. Day 300 off the grid. And here's another exciting thing on day 300 off the grid. the very oven that battery bank that I've been showing you powers. And this is the first time I've used this oven for what was one of the main reasons for getting it, was to be able to grill pans, you see. And we've got a nice omelette in here. It's got some kale, it's got some silver beet and some carrots and radishes all mushed up. Some of it's from our garden. I think there's some wild lettuce in there too, and some salmon, but don't tell the boys that. And there's the oven grilling away the top of it so you don't have to flip them over. I have not made an omelette like this properly since we've been off the grid 300 days ago. I think I've had to go in the coal range when it's hot enough. You can almost do it on the top of the oven there, but it's not the same as having that infrared heat pelting down. So there we go. That's pretty exciting. Day 300 off the grid.